The rhythm of life plays out in a busy Madrid maternity hospital. In one room, a mum dotes over her newborn as she prepares to take her baby home. Nearby in a delivery ward, another baby is about to arrive. A mother in the final stages of labour, an expectant father proudly looking on. In Spain, around 500,000 new babies arrive kicking and screaming every year. But for generations in this country, that most natural and joyful event has become a horror story. For countless thousands of parents, this is a scenario denied, and in its place, grief, anger, and an aching sense of loss. We're about to meet just a few of them, each with a very different version of the same story, of little lives stolen and sold.
This is the place where 40 years ago somebody walked through these gates and went inside there and had a baby.
There's the son trying to find his birth mother. A woman looking for her sister, trying to unlock the truth hidden in a little white box. The desperate father who bought a son. And the two friends trying to find out what happened to their children. The scandal now gripping Spain had its roots in a distant and very callous time in the nation's history. During and after the civil war in the 1930s and 40s, General Franco's dictatorship devised a plan to weaken their enemies. Take babies from their Republican parents and give them to respectable families who supported the regime. It appears that set the moral compass for what was to follow. Doctors and nurses in public and church-run clinics involved in the theft and, in many cases, the sale of babies born to poor, powerless mothers. Told their child had died at birth, their babies were then adopted out.
Firma falsificada, médico falsificado, mi niño no ha nacido, nada de eso.
In Valencia, two friends share a cab ride to town and hopefully some answers.
¿Cómo te vas a imaginar que alguien te pudiera hacer una cosa así?
Amidst Valencia's astounding modern architecture is the building many see as their only hope of recovering a stolen past. Vicen on the left said she was told two of her babies died at birth, and her friend and neighbour, Braulio Banderas Franco, was also told her baby had died. Now she believes that is a lie. Do you believe that your son is out there somewhere, 28, 29 years old now?
Puede, claro que está ahí. Cada día, al principio me costaba un poco todavía asimilar todo lo que está pasando, pero ahora ya voy por la calle y ya voy mirando, porque igual que me ha pasado esto, encontrarme con todo esto, porque no voy a encontrarlo ahí.
Both these women suspect their children were stolen by hospital staff and sold. Vicen has come to the Valencia courthouse to start a legal process her friend Braulio has already begun, gathering documents to push for exhumation. Bralia's search has already uncovered a trail of dodgy paperwork, starting with the birth certificate.
La falsificación de la firma de mi marido, que es el que firmó el papel, dicen que firmaron, eso está falsificado. La clínica donde yo parí está falsificada. Los médicos están falsificados. Está todo falsificado. La forma de que el niño ya justamente ponen que a mediodía ya había fallecido, cuando eso no es verdad, que yo me entero por la noche. Está todo, es todo, no hay ninguna verdad.
What does that tell you about what happened?
Algo raro hay, que eso no es normal, porque ese documento, si estuviera normal, estaría de otra manera, estaría el médico que a mí me ha atendido, estaría la clínica, no estaría la firma de mi marido falsificada.
Emerging from the courthouse armed with a new file of medical records, the two friends are heading home to pore through the evidence. It's a long time ago, but are those feelings still strong? Are they still raw?
En estos momentos no, en estos momentos todo lo contrario. Estoy como rozando el milagro. Yo estoy en las puertas del misterio. Es como si la vida me volviera a dar una segunda oportunidad de decir, no fue justo que me las quitaran y ahora sé que está muy difícil que yo encuentre a mi hija, pero me han dado un motivo para seguir viviendo.
Vicen did go on to raise another son. He's fully behind his mother's quest to discover the truth about his missing siblings.
Ahora quiero quedarme tranquila. Ahora yo ya no me puedo quedar tranquila. Quiero que la Fiscalía ordene la exhumación del cadáver de ambos niños y que cotejen mi ADN con los restos encontrados. Solo así me voy a poder quedar tranquila. No lo puedo saber, de la única forma es con la exhumación del cadáver.
What started as a single story in a newspaper late last year has triggered hundreds of legal claims and thousands of questions. This is a meeting in Valencia of Adoptee, a new organisation dedicated to reuniting families and getting justice for them. Here, mothers line up to give DNA swabs. With birth records falsified, missing or incomplete, this new DNA database may be their only hope.
We can't solve everything because we have, the tool has limits, of course, as any other tool. But yeah, it's a solution for a lot of things.
No one really knows the full extent of what went on, but lawyers involved in cases estimate around 300,000 illegal adoptions took place, and around 50,000 of them were outright thefts. Where poor young mothers were told their babies had died at birth, only to be given to another family considered more suitable. A transaction often greased with cash.
Por lo tanto, era muy fácil para el médico engañar a la madre biológica que daba a luz y decirle que su hijo había muerto y entregarlo a la familia que él quería. No había control alguno por parte de la administración. Entonces, bueno, con esta posibilidad hubieron muchos médicos que se enriquecieron extraordinariamente con esta práctica.
It's claimed doctors, nuns and others conspired to deceive not just the mothers, but the children themselves, whom it appears were given new identities, birth certificates stating their adopting parents are their biological mothers and fathers, creating a virtually untraceable lie that only DNA tests can expose.
Si no declaran los padres que lo compraron, el juez poco puede hacer. Si no sabemos en qué hospital nació el niño robado, pocos archivos podemos conseguir. Quizás es muy importante la iniciativa de las bases de datos privadas que se están haciendo de ADN. Cuanto más gente sea la que se haga, más fácil será que hayan cruces y que se encuentren.
For Valencia-based lawyer Enrique Villa, this is both a professional and personal quest. While he represents some of those demanding prosecutions, he says he too was adopted illegally and can't trace his birth mother. From what you understand now, should some of those doctors be in jail?
Sin duda. Hay doctores que están vivos, que están ejerciendo todavía y sin duda alguna, hay pruebas suficientes contra ellos para que se les condene indudablemente.
But for there to be a market for this blackest of trades, there needed to be buyers. Amidst the rural tranquility of Ontinyent near Valencia lives a man tormented by what he did 30 years ago. Manuel Espy always knew it was illegal, but unable to have their own children, back in 1982, he and his wife bought a baby boy from a clinic in nearby Valencia. They named him Lucas.
Además que era hermoso, tenía una cosa diferente, era como muy peculiar. Fue niño muy pequeño y ya agradaba a la gente, hacía muecas, hacía cosas, encantaba a la gente.
But this was no simple transaction. Over the coming months, there were demands for more and more money. Essentially an extortion racket with menaces. Pay up or lose your child.
Y es cuando se descubre que todo era mentira. Y cuando yo digo, esto yo lo denuncio, dicen, iréis ya a la cárcel. Nosotros no nos piraremos, pero tú paga.
Eventually, after paying the equivalent of 4 years' wages, the paperwork stating Lucas was their natural-born son was provided. But even then it was unsigned, and of course, a fraud.
Pero siempre el remordimiento me dice, no se puede decir, y en cambio es así. Porque, ojo, yo llevaba un lastre de 29 años y detrás. Y ahora parece que se vayan. Cuando muere Lucas, solamente 18 años hemos disfrutado. Digo, no, di 18 años hemos disfrutado, que no es lo mismo.
Lucas Espy and his girlfriend were just 18 when both were killed in a terrible accident when a gas tank exploded.
Yo siempre era el hombre agradecido a Lucas. A Lucas yo le quise, le quiero y le querré. Porque Lucas fue un chico precoz, peculiar, diferente. Ha dejado huella. No conmigo, con la gente. Ha dejado huella. Era una persona diferente. Y por eso casi llegué a pensar, por castigo nuestro, por egoísmo, hemos perdido a Lucas. No lo merecíamos.
Certainly the breadth and scale of the baby trade appears huge, but precisely how big may be impossible to measure. In the Catalan city of Barcelona, tourists and locals alike are drawn to the Gaudi landmarks like this extraordinary church. But there is another city on a Barcelona hill that tourists don't visit, housing the departed in multi-storey vaults, where evidence of a dark past is literally buried. But for increasing numbers, not for long, because in these valleys of the dead in Barcelona and beyond, there are answers set to be exhumed. One of the really sad consequences of this whole story is that as it gathers momentum, people that had accepted the fact that their baby had died are left wondering now, was my child trafficked? were they actually brought up by another family under another name? And some are prepared to go to extraordinary lengths to answer that question. Officially, Nuria Palathea Cruz's sister was stillborn, her little body placed in a white coffin in the family vault. Nuria doesn't believe it and wants the coffin opened and any remains DNA tested. If you get permission to open that box, what do you think is inside?
Un muñeco liado en vendas. Siempre lo dijeron mis padres, siempre lo decían y yo pienso que es así. La caja esa hace 36 años y está igual.
Is it possible that the horrible reality is that your sister did die just exactly as the doctors said?
Y no nació muerta, la niña nació, la pesaron, la lavaron, le arreglaron el ombligo. Entonces esa ya es la primera cosa que me he encontrado. Y lo segundo, en el legajo de aborto, la firma de mi padre, esa no es la firma de mi padre. Es que es que ahí dentro no está mi hermana. Mi hermana pues la vendieron.
Already, coffins in other cases have been opened. In one instance, the skeleton found inside was not a baby girl as it should have been, but a boy. And of course, the DNA didn't match. Nuria Palathea Cruz is heading to the courts to demand her sister's coffin be opened and the prosecution of those she blames for the theft of a sister she's never known. While there are nearly 1,000 investigations already underway, no one, doctors included, has yet been charged. And many of the private clinics where it's alleged these crimes took place have, like the paper trail, disappeared. The nuns and doctors who once ran this private Madrid clinic have long gone. It's now an old people's home. But questions remain about the fate of some of the babies born in this place. One of the really frustrating parts of telling this story is the lack of documentary evidence. And perhaps that's for very good reason. The people that used to work here are hardly making themselves available to tell their side of the story. But there is one man with some very chilling evidence of what was going on here at least 30 years ago. Hello? ABC. Thank you so much for seeing me. Herman Gallego is a semi-retired photographer who 3 decades ago was tipped off about the clinic by a staff member. He's about to show me the pictures he took there late at night for an expose published in a magazine. And a warning, these are disturbing images.
Llegué allí, era invierno, yo sé que hacía mucho frío, me abrieron una verja y entré en una especie de sitio muy estrecho, que había unas neveras, y la persona que me abrió me sacó un niño, en este caso era una niña, y me lo puso para hacer la foto.
What was your understanding of what the baby was there for? What was the purpose?
No, pues yo sabía por qué estaba allí, estaba porque y tenían que enseñar a las madres que querían ver a su hijo muerto, decían su hijo ha muerto. Entonces el niño muerto no había muerto, pero sí enseñaban un niño muerto que había muerto en realidad y lo tenían en un congelador. 6.000 euros.
Herman Gallego says there were other babies in the freezer to mix and match according to need.
No, yo he trabajado en revistas de sucesos cuando era joven y tal, pero afecta porque claro, es que esta gente, o sea, sabías, cada vez que se llaman a este niño, había otro que se lo llevaba una familia pagando, era como el que se compra un piso, era una locura, o sea, no sé cómo se podía conseguir pues.
But what of the children who were switched in this macabre deception, sold sometimes overseas, and who grew up utterly unaware of their true heritage? Shuttling into this murky saga is a man who was raised American and comes from Texas. It wasn't until he was a father himself, showing off his baby son at a family gathering, that the truth came out.
At some point during that conversation, my grandmother looked at me and said, well, you know you don't carry my blood. And that's how I found out.
When confronted, his father admitted that he'd paid $5,000 to buy Randy as a newborn.
It floored me. I mean, at the age of 28, to find out that the people you thought were your parents are not your parents, and the style of the way I found out, it was just really incredible.
With both his adoptive parents now dead, Randy Ryder has come to Malaga, the place he thinks he was born and sold. But tracking down his past is no easy task.
There is no identifying information. It just has seemed to have vanished. Everything has vanished. The hospital has vanished, the records have vanished, the birth records are falsified. Everything is just either falsified or it's gone, magically just disappeared.
Sure enough, his birth records falsely state his adopted parents were his biological mother and father, both of whom are no longer alive. Randy has one strong lead, Dr. Manuel Munoz Neto, the doctor who 40 years earlier delivered him and signed the birth certificate. When they met, Randy had a catalogue of questions.
How it's possible that he was able to sign his name to a document, a legal national Spanish document, verifying and certifying that this woman gave birth to me without any sort of identity checks, I just can't imagine that any reputable doctor would do such a thing.
With the controversy about black market babies growing, Dr. Neto couldn't satisfactorily answer all of Randy Ryder's questions.
He was not nervous at all, confident in his answers, but I also felt that definitely very concerned with proving his innocence with the answers.
As he wanders the streets and sights of Malaga, he could be any other tourist, but Randy's not looking at the buildings or monuments, but rather searching for one special person, the woman who gave birth to him 40 years and 1 day ago.
There are these occasional moments where you wonder, okay, this could have been the street where, somebody from my past was walking along, or maybe somebody worked over here, and so there's that sort of, strange connection that you have. You think about those kind of things. The day that I wonder mostly those kind of things is whenever my birthday rolls around. I always think about that. Because I know that if she's alive, and that is indeed my birthday, I know we're thinking about the same thing at that moment.
Hola, buenas. ¿Está cerrado el colegio?
Another solid piece of evidence is still standing. Although they're now commercial offices, this once was a private maternity clinic, the place he was born.
I'm just thinking about, this is the place where 40 years ago, roughly, somebody walked through these gates and went inside there and had a baby.
Wow. That's quite amazing architecture here.
Beautiful building.
Yeah.
One of these rooms could have been the room where I was born, where my biological mother had me. And then somewhere along here, somewhere in this process, that handoff was made to the adopted parents. Well, I will walk out of this building today by my own choice and free will. Wasn't able to do that the first time.
Spanish prosecutors are already investigating nearly 900 cases. There could be thousands more to come. It may have happened decades ago, but the effects for all are raw and very much in the present. When you dream of your perfect ending to this story, how does it go?
It's really simple. It's just being able to piece the puzzle together. I mean, a lot of this I was doing for myself, but a lot of it I was doing to sort of put together a picture for my son, for the next generation also. You know, it would be nice to be able to explain to your offspring where you come from and who you are and who they are.